The sun had already dipped beneath the line of strawberry hills, leaving behind a peach-pink glow that shimmered across the dewdrops. In the middle of Berry Meadow stood a tiny glass cottage, shaped like an old jam jar, where Jelly, a plump, pink, strawberry spirit, lived all by herself. She wasn't made of fruit exactly, but her scent was sweet and her laughter even sweeter. Each evening, she'd hum softly as she closed her little curtains, light her sugar lamp, and curl up in her soft breadcrumb bed to dream about clouds and honey rivers, but tonight, the air felt different. The crickets didn't sing, and even the wind had gone quiet, as if holding its breath. Jelly placed her paw against the window, peering out. "Strange," she whispered, her jelly-like ears twitching. "It's too still." Just then, a deep, distant thump rolled through the ground beneath her cottage, making the glass walls tremble. A second thump followed, closer this time. The jelly jar rattled on its shelf. Jelly froze, her sugary heart beating fast. She stepped outside into the dark meadow, where the moon cast silver light over every berry bush. The grass shimmered like stars under her feet. Then she saw them, tiny quakes rippling across the soil, moving toward the hills beyond. It looked as though the earth itself was breathing. Somewhere far away, something big was walking. "Oh, no," Jelly murmured. "Not the bedtime tales. Not the giants." She remembered the stories the older sweets told her, stories about enormous beings who once roamed these lands, hungry for sugar spirits. No one had seen them in years, and most had stopped believing they were real. Until now, determined not to panic, Jelly hurried down the moonlit trail toward the sugar hollow, where her friends, Marshy the marshmallow fox and Coco the chocolate owl, usually met at night. "Maybe they'll know what's happening," she said, clutching her tiny glowing jar for light. The air smelled faintly of smoke and damp soil as the ground continued to tremble beneath her small, wobbly steps. The sound grew louder, steadier, as though something enormous was following the rhythm of her heartbeat. When she finally reached the hollow, it was empty. Not even Marshy's pawprints were there. Only crushed petals and broken candy reeds littered the path. She turned slowly, her reflection flickering in her glowing jar. And then she heard it, a faint, echoing voice, carried by the wind, low and distant yet impossibly real, Jelly, her name, spoken in a voice that could have only come from something ancient and towering. The ground shuddered once more, and Jelly stumbled backward into the bushes, her lamp dimming. Jelly crouched among the bushes, heart fluttering like a leaf in the wind. The voice that called her name still echoed faintly across the meadow. She pressed her hands over her ears, but the deep, trembling sound seemed to rumble inside her chest rather than around her. "Maybe it's just the wind," she whispered hopefully, though she knew it wasn't. The ground gave another gentle shake, and the jar-shaped cottage far behind her gave a soft, distant clink. As though waving goodbye, she took a deep breath and followed the trail leading deeper into Sugar Hollow. The usual sparkle of fireflies was gone. Even the licorice trees, which usually glowed faintly at night, had dimmed their colors. As she walked, her tiny jelly feet stuck slightly to the caramel-coated stones beneath her, each step leaving behind a faint pink mark. Then she noticed them, massive footprints, pressed deep into the sugared soil. The shapes were huge and uneven, as though carved by something with toes the size of pumpkins. She touched one cautiously, feeling the faint warmth left behind. The giants had been here, and recently. "Marshy? Coco?" she called softly, her voice quivering. "Please tell me you're hiding somewhere silly." But there was no answer, only the rhythmic hum of the earth beneath her feet. Suddenly, she heard a rustle from behind the candy reeds. A pair of glowing chocolate-brown eyes peeked out. Jelly gasped in relief as Coco, the chocolate owl, stumbled forward. His feathers were dusted with sugar ash. "You shouldn't be out here," he whispered, his voice trembling. "They've woken up, Jelly. The giants from the mountains. They're marching toward the meadow." Jelly's tiny glow flickered. "But why now? They haven't come down in ages. No one's seen them since they lost the sweetstone," Coco interrupted, lowering his voice. They say the giants' hearts are bound to it. Without it, they can't dream, can't rest. And they think someone from the Candy Valley took it. He looked at her meaningfully, eyes wide. They think you have it, Jelly. Jelly's breath caught. Me? Why would I have it? She asked, stepping back. But deep down, something inside her stirred, an image she didn't understand. A memory of light and warmth. Of something glowing beneath her cottage floor. Before she could ask more, a gust of wind swept through the hollow, bending the reeds flat. The ground thundered with slow, approaching steps. Coco spread his wings. We need to go, now, he shouted. Jelly turned toward the distant hills, but as she did, a colossal shadow stretched across the trees, swallowing the moonlight whole. The forest quaked as Jelly and Coco darted through the caramel reeds, their tiny forms glowing faintly against the darkened land. Behind them, thunderous steps echoed, slow, steady, deliberate. The sound didn't just come from the ground anymore, it filled the air, vibrating through their very bones. They reached the edge of Berry Meadow just as dawn's first pale light began to stain the sky. Jelly's glass cottage stood waiting, tilted slightly from the tremors. She froze, staring at it. Something about it felt different inside. Coco urged, flapping his wings to keep steady. If they see us out here, Jelly didn't argue. She pushed open the sticky caramel door and hurried in. Everything inside trembled with faint vibrations, the spoon by her sink, the sugar crystals in her jar of dreams, even the walls that once shimmered with warmth. The rumbling grew louder for a moment, then quieted, as though the giants had stopped just beyond the meadow. Coco perched on the window sill, feathers ruffled. They're close, he whispered. Too close. Jelly sank to her knees, gripping her head. Why would they think I have something of theirs? She murmured. Then, as she looked down, her gaze caught something strange, a faint crack running along her cottage floorboards. It shimmered faintly, like starlight caught beneath glass. She frowned, leaning closer. That's never been there before. She brushed aside a pile of sugar dust, revealing a soft glow beneath the surface, pulsing gently, as though alive. Coco's eyes widened. Jelly, that light, it feels like magic. Strong magic. He hopped down beside her, pressing his wing against the floor. This might be the sweet stone. Jelly's breath caught. Memories fluttered at the edge of her mind, her earliest ones, of waking up in this cottage with no memory of how she got there. The warm hum beneath her floor, the dreams that felt too vivid to be her own. Could it be that the thing keeping her home glowing, the thing that made her who she was, wasn't truly hers at all? If it is, she said softly, then maybe. I've been dreaming for them all this time. Outside, the air shifted. A deep voice, ancient and rumbling, rolled through the valley like thunder. Return what was taken, or the sweetness will fade. The glass cottage shivered. The light beneath Jelly's feet pulsed brighter, as if it were answering. Coco turned toward her, eyes full of fear. They know where you are. The trembling outside grew louder, so loud that the sugar jars on Jelly's shelves began to dance and clink against each other. Coco fluttered to the top of a spoon rack, eyes wide, feathers puffed in alarm. They're here, he breathed. His voice trembled, but not from fear alone. There was awe in it too, like he was witnessing something ancient come alive. Jelly stood in the middle of her cottage, her pink glow flickering with each vibration. She felt torn between fear and a strange pull, like her heart was being tugged toward the light beneath her floor. A shadow passed across her window, massive, blotting out the sun. The ground sank slightly with each slow step. Then, silence. Only the faint hum of the glowing cracks filled the air. Jelly swallowed hard and stepped outside. The world beyond her door looked impossibly large. Her once cozy meadow was now dwarfed by the towering shapes of two giants. Their skin shimmered faintly like old sugar glass, translucent and faintly blue. They weren't monstrous, but ancient, faces carved with kindness and sorrow rather than rage. The taller one bent down, its eyes glowing faintly gold. "Little one," it said, its voice deep as thunder yet soft as rain, "you carry what was lost." Jelly stared up, trembling, unable to move. I didn't know," she stammered. "I thought the light was part of my home." The shorter giant knelt beside her, the wind from its breath ruffling her jelly-like hair. "It kept us dreaming," the giant said. "When it was taken, we fell into silence. Our world grew dark." Coco landed beside Jelly, bowing his head respectfully. "She never meant to keep it," he said. "We didn't even know what it was until now." Jelly stepped forward, clutching her glowing jar in both hands. "If it belongs to you," she said softly, "then I'll give it back." "But, if I do, will I disappear?" Her voice cracked slightly at the last word. The giants exchanged glances, ancient sorrow passing between them. The taller giant answered, "You were born from it, little one. From the dream that escaped when the stone cracked. To return it is to awaken what was forgotten." The light beneath the cottage grew stronger, spilling out into the meadow like liquid sunlight. The ground seemed to breathe again, the air sparkling with sugar dust. Jelly looked at her trembling hands and smiled faintly through the tears in her eyes. "Then I guess it's time to wake up," she whispered. She stepped back into the cottage, where the glow pulsed in rhythm with her heartbeat. The giants stood silently, waiting, as the first notes of a deep, melodic hum filled the air, a song the world hadn't heard in centuries. Inside the trembling cottage, Jelly knelt beside the shining crack in the floor. The light had grown so strong that it filled the tiny space like sunrise in a bottle, painting every surface in soft pink and gold. The air hummed gently, almost like it was breathing with her. Coco stood at the doorway, his chocolate feathers glowing in the reflection. "Are you sure?" he asked quietly. "Once it leaves you, things might never be the same." Jelly smiled faintly, though her voice wavered. "Maybe that's okay," she said. "Dreams aren't meant to stay in one place forever." She placed her small, jelly-like palms over the light. It felt warm, alive, and for a brief moment, she saw memories not her own. The giants walking beneath starlit skies. Vast fields of sugar grass that once glowed under their watch. And a tiny spark, drifting free from a crack in a great crystal stone, her. She gasped softly. She wasn't just a sweet spirit, she was a dream the giants had lost. With a deep breath, she pressed her hands against the glow. "Go home," she whispered. The light flared brilliantly, rushing upward like a golden ribbon spiraling into the air. The ground shook, not with fear this time, but with renewal. The giants lifted their hands as the radiant energy poured into their chests, their glass-like forms brightening with color and warmth. A low hum filled the valley, a harmony so gentle it made the sugar reeds sway and the chocolate rivers shimmer again. When the light finally faded, the cottage was quiet. The giants stood tall and serene, their eyes soft with gratitude. "You have returned what was lost," said the taller one, bowing its massive head. "The dream of sweetness shall live again." Jelly blinked, dazed. Her home looked the same, yet lighter, as if the air itself had been cleaned of sadness. She looked down at her hands, still glowing faintly pink. "I'm still here," she whispered. The shorter giant smiled. "You were born from the dream, little one. As long as sweetness exists, so will you." The giants slowly turned toward the mountains, their steps now gentle, leaving behind trails of light that faded into the dawn mist. Coco fluttered onto Jelly's shoulder. "You did it," he said softly. Jelly looked up at the now peaceful sky. "No," she whispered, smiling as the morning sunlight kissed the dew. "We did." She walked into the meadow where tiny candy flowers had already begun to bloom again. For the first time in forever, the land smelled alive, warm, safe, and sweet. That night, as stars twinkled above and crickets sang once more, Jelly curled up in her little bed. The glass cottage glowed softly from within, pulsing in time with her sleepy breath. The giant's song lingered faintly in the wind, carrying her into dreams, not of fear, but of belonging. And somewhere high in the mountains, two great beings smiled in their sleep, finally at peace.